Hi, my name is Beth Ritter-Guth, and I'm the Associate Dean of Online Learning and Educational Technology at Northampton Community College. This is the first video in a series of videos about social engineering as part of our ethical hacking series on our non-credit side of Northampton. So welcome, and we are going to get started in just a second. There are some preliminary statements that I want to make before we get into what we're going to do. This is a pre-recorded series for the students who are taking the class with me this evening so that they have the answer key to all the different things that we do in the Hacker Studios. At no time should you ever do anything illegal with your computer. Not only does this statement protect me, but it protects you. Ethical hacking is a legitimate form of hacking. It is bonded, and there are requirements for how you can hack people, when you can hack them, and it always starts with following all of the legal rules that involve penetration testing, which is what ethical hacking is. So before we would ever do a campaign on anybody other than ourselves, we would get written approval and have an agreement, a legal agreement with the target to gather information about their security and then provide them with what we find and next steps for how they can improve their security. So please don't do these things at home on any other target other than yourself, and be safe and stay legal. All right, so let's get started. There are 5 steps in the ethical hacking process. This particular presentation is only about the first step, and in that first step, it's only about social engineering. If you want to learn more about ethical hacking and penetration testing, I recommend that you take the Certified Ethical Hacking course with the EC Council. That link is also available below, as is the link to this Padlet, which includes all of the tools that we'll be using for the Hacker Studios this evening. So, in our first block, we go through the 5 steps of ethical hacking. Recon is our first step, and it can be active or passive, and you're gathering information. And there's lots of different tools that we use to do that. And I've provided links to all those tools. The tool that I use the most is Maltego. I won't be using Maltego this evening other than to show you what it looks like. But Maltego is the primary tool that I use to gather information. I also do some old school gathering of information because anything that's available online is freely discoverable. Anything that you throw away in your trash can, once it's in the trash and out on the street, is freely discoverable. So social engineering is both a computer-based activity, but it's also some investigative techniques that you can do old school, right? So Recon is the place where social engineering lives. Beyond the Recon phase, there's scanning, which is just poking a target machine to see where there are weaknesses and where you can exploit the machine, and the tools that are listed there. Once you scan and figure out where you can go, then you want to gain access to where to what you can exploit. And the tool that we use most for that activity and then maintaining access is called Metasploit. And then once you're finished and you've gathered the information you want to gather and you've gotten where you want to go and you've launched your target, once you're finished, you want to clear your tracks. You want to remove any identifying information, any access logs that may have been created, and you want to clean up your mess, leaving no trace. And then in ethical hacking, what distinguishes us from the bad hackers is that we report anything that we find. So in ethical hacking, we meet with a client ahead of time. We say, this is what we're going to look for. This is what we're going to do. These are the tools we're going to use. At the end of the process, we come back and we say, this is what we found. These are the tools that we used. And here's additional things that we may have found. And so being an ethical hacker means that you will share everything and you won't try to profit on the things that you find. So if you were looking for A, B, and C, but you also found D, E, and F, you are responsible and obligated to provide that information to the client. And then you want to give the client next steps, how to protect themselves, what to do if there is a virus or if there are viruses or whatever on machines, how to fix them, and give them next steps without charging more money, right? We don't want to entrap them and profit off of their ignorance or their weak security. So this class tonight is all about social engineering, and it's a part of the recon process, as I said, and it's gathering information mostly from human targets. The easiest thing to target is the human being, because humans give out way more information than they should, both in person and online, and most of that is discoverable without needing any kind of access to any kind of back-end security protected information, right? So we use social media, we use people's ignorance, and we phish them, and we do all sorts of things to get information from them. And so in our Hacker Studio tonight, we're going to be doing a phishing campaign and we're going to do a research campaign so that you can learn how we gather information about a target. So there are 4 steps to the attack cycle: information gathering, and then you want to establish relationship and support. You want to exploit the target, and then you want to execute whatever your hack is going to be. So we're going to talk about those steps as we talk about the Hacker Studios. So some best practices to cover you. You want 1 machine per campaign. So when you're ethically hacking, this isn't as important because you're, everybody knows that you're doing this work. So your client knows that you're hacking them. Somebody in IT is expecting it, right? So they know that this is going to happen. So this isn't as critical when you're working on the side of good. But if you're a bad hacker, you definitely want to have 1 machine per campaign. That's the best practice. And you want 1 persona per campaign. So, I'm using my work computer right now. I would never use my work computer for this kind of work. I would never use the identity of Beth Ritter-Guth for my campaign, and I would never be on my home network or my work network. I would go out to public Wi-Fi like McDonald's or Wawa or Starbucks, and I would do all of my work away from anything that can identify me personally. You always want to use a VPN or hotbox to do your work, and so it's important to download and install VirtualBox and Kali Linux, and to do your activities through there. You can use the Tor browser to do a lot of this work, but again, nothing is safe on the internet. Nothing is immune to discovery, right? So anytime you're online, it's a risk. So even if you do use a hotbox, or even if you do use a VPN, you will still have trackers that can point to you in the end. So that won't be so critical as an ethical hacker because, again, everybody's aware of what you're doing. So I've just provided some links here on the Padlet to some of the tools that we use, and explains what Nmap is and how we test firewalls and what Google Dorking is, and then a link to Maltego. And Maltego is an actual download. Some of these are downloads. And Maltego is the tool that I use the most. And I'm not going to actually go into how to use it because it is a bit of a learning curve, but just to show you what it looks like, this is what the front page looks like, and these are the tools that are available in Maltego. And what it does is it pulls a lot of the information about people very quickly into a place where I can see everything. I can see social media accounts. I can see it can work a lot faster than I can to gather information about a target. So this is often the tool that I use. This is the free community version. If you get into serious pen testing, you'll definitely want the paid version. So just to show you what that is. All right, so when we gather information, what's legal? Well, anything in the public domain, anything that a person has posted online is free and discoverable. There's nothing illegal in searching information about people or websites or companies. And like I said, humans are the easiest to hack. So that's where we start because that's where we get information. And what our goal is to get more and more information so that we can get in and exploit machines. So that's the end of this first video. In our next video, we're going to be doing our first Hacker Studio, which is gathering information about a website that no longer exists. So I will see you in just a minute.